Okay, let's talk about Druids in Classic WoW Season of Discovery. Today we're going to be talking about all of the brand new class abilities or class runes coming out in Season of Discovery, and we'll also be talking about like which runes are for which slot. So we have the glove runes, we have the chest runes, and even the legs runes, and we'll be talking about which runes are suitable for which spec. So restoration runes, feral DPS, feral tanking, and even boomkin. So we'll be making like a list of these suggested runes for every single spec, and once again today we're taking a look at the druid mainly, and we'll be having separate videos or separate segments for every single class. So let's talk about the druid. Number 1, we have a couple of runes here coming out that we'll be checking out, and number 1 is the chest runes. Here you can see all the different runes that you can put into your chest whenever you get them, and you have to go in the open world and find these runes. I've talked about runes in the past, I'll be talking more about them in the future as well, and basically you can find them from doing quests, discovering them in the open world, maybe they drop from bosses. It's Season of Discovery, so you have to discover the rune first, and then you have to make a choice because you can't use all 4 of these. You can have them on separate chest pieces or even swap them out of combat, but you have to make a choice for which one to use at a time. So for example, you can't combine Wild Strikes and Survival of the Fittest, you have to pick one or the other. Thankfully, you have one for every single spec, so Wild Strikes, while you are in cat form, bear form, or dire bear form, party members within 20 yards gain increased combat ferocity. Each melee hit has a 20% chance of granting the attacker an extra attack with 20% additional attack power. This one also has no effect if the party member is already benefiting from Wind Fury Totem. So this one is pretty important, and it's important to note here that this is not going to act as a weapon enchant, it's basically a buff. So while Horde has this as a weapon enchant, or it's a weapon proc basically, for us we can use this. It also benefits me as a Feral Druid, and I can still use Sharpening Stones as an example, and even weapon enchants. So it won't take up additional slot on the weapon, or at least for now it won't. So Wild Strikes, basically a Wind Fury for Alliance, super good, and even for Horde you don't have to have a Shaman anymore for Wind Fury, making them available to use their other air totems. So Feral DPS, or any Druid for that matter, can pick this one and then buff their entire party. Then you have Survival of the Fittest. This one reduces the chance you'll be critically hit by melee attacks by 6% and reduces all damage taken by 10%. Damage taken reduced by an additional 10% while in bear form or dire bear form. This one is the obvious tank rune if you can't figure that out by now, but obvious tank rune if you're going to be tanking, this one is important. Next up, you have Living Seed. When you critically hit your target with any healing spell, you plant a Living Seed on the target for 30% of the amount healed. The Living Seed will bloom when the target is next attacked, and last for 15 seconds. Basically, you heal a lot more, super good, and this one is Resto obviously. And then you have Fury of the Storm Rage. This one can be used for both Resto and Boomkin. I think it's used for Boomkin in this case, but if you go back to Kata for example, I think this one came out in Kata, or it could have been later as well, but it was a point in WoW where Resto Druids would use this talent. It's a Resto talent from the past, and they would basically weave in rats while in combat or while in raids to deal damage during the downtime. Reduces the mana cost of Wrath by 100%, and each time you deal damage with Wrath you have a 12% chance for your next cast of Healing Touch within 15 seconds to be instant. So once again, flexible here, both Boomkins and Resto can go for this, but I think Resto would rather want to go for Living Seed, and Fury of the Storm Rage is obviously there to help out Boomkins or any Druids casting Wrath, because in this case it's going to be free. Alright, chest runes covered, let's go to the next one. Right here we have Druid runes for legs. Once again, same thing, one for every single spec, kind of, and then you have to make a choice. So you have Savage Roar, finishing move that increases physical damage by 30% while in cat form, and lasts longer per combo point as listed right here. Then you have Star Surge. This one launches surging stellar energies that causes X amount of damage, arcane damage in this case, and Star Surge benefits from and triggers most talents and effects that trigger or benefit from Wrath or Starfire. Boomkin. And then you have Life Bloom for restoration to heal even more, heals the target for X amount over 7 seconds. When Life Bloom completes the duration or is dispelled, the target instantly heals for even more, and the Druid regains half the cost of the spell. So not only does this help you heal more and heal more over time, plus the instant proc as well from the bloom, you also get mana back, and you can stack up to 3 Life Bloom stacks every single target or on the same target. Then you have School Bash. Now this one I think is just put in there as a flexible, like based on these, like you want to have Savage Roar for Feral DPS, you want to have Life Bloom for Resto, then a Star Surge for Boomkin, so School Bash would be the tank one, but I mean pretty much every single druid can pick School Bash. If there's a raid boss or dungeon boss where you have to interrupt a lot, this one can be good, but as you can see it requires cat form, bear form or dire bear form, and charge to a target within 13 yards, and bash the target's skull, interrupting spell casting and preventing any spell in that school from being cast for 2 seconds. So pretty flexible on that one, but it looks like it could be, yeah, it's going to be a tank one. None of the other ones fit for tank. Savage Roar you have to be in cat form, so School Bash for tanks in this case, but once again every druid can use it if you need to. And then we have the last few runes right here for gloves in this case. You have Mangle, finishing move that causes damage, disorients the opponent, and turns off your attack. Any damage caused will revive the target. So here you can see how much damage it deals and how long you basically disorient the target for. 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 seconds. Obviously, Feral DPS right there. Then you have Sunfire, burns the enemy for X amount of that nature damage, and then even more nature damage over 12 seconds. Then you have Lacerate, or Lacerate, I have no idea how to pronounce that still. Bear form, dire bear form, so once again tank in this case. Lacerates the enemy target, making them bleed for X amount of damage over 15 seconds, plus 20% weapon damage per existing application of Lacerate on the target. This one causes a high amount of threat, so once again, the tank thing, this effect stacks up to 5 times on the same target. And then you have Wild Growth. Dude, Resto Druid is looking better and better the more I see. So Wild Growth heals all of the targets, heals all of target players' party members within 15 yards of the target for X amount, over 7 seconds. The amount healed is applied quickly at first and slows down as Wild Growth reaches the full duration. Those are all the specs we have as a druid. Now I want to take a look at some possible combinations for specs. So in this case I've compiled some suggested combos. First of all we have Resto. For Resto I would recommend going with Wild Growth, Life Bloom and Living Seed. Now once again these are the general recommendations in this case, because they all directly benefit Resto, their healing spells all of them, but once again leading back to the fact that you're getting School Bash. If a boss requires a bunch of interrupts, even the healers can help out with interrupts, but once again in that case you're sacrificing a rune to get the interrupt. So once again just a suggested spec right there. Now we also have a suggested spec for Balance or Boomkin in this case. So Sunfire, Fury of the Storm Rage and Star Surge, all very good abilities, but like Sunfire and Star Surge increasing your damage output, and then Fury of the Storm Rage giving you consistent damage with no mana cost as well on top. That is absolutely great. Once again you can swap out a rune to get that interrupt if need be. For the next one, we have Feral DPS, Wild Strikes. This one is absolutely important, but it is important to note, anyone can use this, but you have to be in cat form, bear form or dire bear form to give people that buff. So Feral DPS or Feral Tanks can both pick this one up, it just depends on your group and like your raid setup, and once again you can swap them out as need be, so you can pick it up even as a tank. And if you have no other ferals in your group as an alliance, you definitely want to have Wild Strikes. Then you have Savage Roar and Mangle as well, obviously for Feral DPS, and lastly, and last but not least, we have Feral Tank. In this case, once again I've picked the general talent, so we have Survival of the Fittest, School Bash and Lacerate, but once again, you can swap out Survival of the Fittest to get the one for Feral DPS, which is the Wild Strikes. So if you don't have a Feral DPS and you're playing Alliance, you want to have Wild Strikes, you can just swap that on and put it on as a tank, because once again, you will give that buff while in bear form. So there we have it, the Druid is covered pretty much for Seasonal Discovery. I wanted to give a quick overview without going too in depth on how to make the class and the build list and everything. Just wanted to cover all the brand new abilities. So hopefully you enjoyed the video today. If you did, leave a like down below, leave a like and leave a comment. Let me know which class to cover next. I'm planning on covering pretty much every single one, and then do a big overview of every single class in a class picking list as well. Either way, that's the video for today. Once again, thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see you again very soon.